I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Vanderbilt can be a major player in the NIL game, but how do they do it?
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. On this episode, since the spring portal is open, and because Nico did what he did, it got me rethinking. How can Vandy be competitive in NIL? I've discussed it before. The parts are slowly coming together, but the question remains, can Vandy be competitive against the big boys in the SEC and also the big boys that lie outside of the SEC, like Ohio State and those type of programs? We'll answer all of that. Also, within baseball, the Vandy boys continue to struggle at the plate. Braden Holcomb was supposed to be a big bat for Tim Corbin going back even to last year. He went into a slump. He was okay. Then he went into a slump. Corbin pulled him and began an intensive hitting program to get him back on track. He homered last night, looks to have his form back, but honestly, we shall see this weekend. So the question with that is, are we doubting Tim Corbin? Is he? What are we doing to get the power back in the lineup? Is it going to work? And do we have time for it to work? So we'll answer all that as well, or try to answer it at least in this episode. So thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So spring portal's open, and it got me thinking. Like I said, it got me thinking. The whole Nico Iamaleava thing got me thinking with guys heading into the portal, looking for a bigger payday. Demarion Thomas did an episode about him jumping into the portal. I'm not real sure what his motives were, but he was a projected starter. Those guys rotate a lot anyway. So I don't know if him jumping in the portal is anything other than money. I mean, I don't know if he's struggling in school. I don't know if that's a factor. I don't know if those other guys were nipping at his heels on the depth chart and his playing time was decreasing and he was floating downward on the chart. I'm not real sure. But from all the information that I have, this looks like Vandy's first money grab. This guy wants more money. He wants to find an opportunity that will benefit him, but he's a starter in the SEC for a team that's on the rise, playing against probably one of the toughest schedules in all the country. So if you're wondering about NFL status, they don't care about wins and losses. The NFL watches your film, watches how you play against top competition. They don't care if you go 1-11, 0-12, 12-0. They don't care. If you're good enough, if these NFL people feel like you're good enough to play for them, they will draft you, whether you're at Hofstra or you're at Georgia. They don't care. They find good players. That's what they're paid to do. So if he's looking for NFL potential, like I think him getting SEC film would have been the best route for that, but I'm not real sure. Maybe he's chasing NIL. You know, it's certainly in a position to where a lot of people are probably doing the same thing. So, you know, is Vandy, you know, could it be that he wanted something? Vandy was like, nah, we're going to pay you this, and this is our offer. And he said, no, thank you. And I'm going to go to the portal and all that stuff. Like, is it one of those scenarios again? Like, that's something, until they get guardrails on this thing, that's something you're going to have to deal with as a program. You're going to have starters likely jumping ship because they're not liking their deal. They're not liking their playing time, or a combination of both. They don't feel like their NIL deal matches their impact on the team, which I don't know that defensive line is a very lucrative position money-wise at any level. So if he goes out and improves the situation, gets paid really well, ends up in the NFL, more power to him. I have zero problem with guys, looking for that money grab. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but if that's what he feels like he needs to do, great. And I don't want to turn this into Marion Thomas, but it kind of that's kind of the culture that you're dealing with. Okay. So in order to know how to be successful, you have to understand where the culture is. You have to meet it where it's at. So the keys to it being successful, I kind of narrowed it down to like 3 major points. There's probably a lot more. And if you know of some that I'm not talking about, leave it in the comments. But the first thing is first, Anchor Impact needs to continue to spend aggressively. They've got the money. There's a well somewhere that if they tap it, this could be a major, major deal, right? If Anchor Impact can find a way to really tap into it before they start putting salary caps on it and all that stuff, before they start regulating it, you can build yourself into a really good program. So you go out and spend it aggressively. Now you have to evaluate where you're spending it, and you have to figure out, okay, what's the most important thing? What do we need? What's the market value for this position? What's the market value for a guy transferring from, let's say, Ohio? Defensive lineman. What's the market for that, right? And then you go and you outbid. I mean, it is just like NFL free agency, except there's as far as bidding goes for transfer portal guys, it's pretty much like NFL free agency. So you have to spend aggressively, and you have to not be afraid to spend and get guys out of the portal. Because if you're afraid, then you're just not going to get anybody. And I think Vandy is learning that, because the quality of the transfers and the quantity of the transfers have increased, and you're getting bigger name guys, and you're getting more, I guess you're getting guys that are starters and things like that. And you're not having to take chances now, because also it helps that you're a little bit more on stable ground now with Clark Lee, and he's not wondering if he's getting fired, or everybody around him is not wondering if he's getting fired. And, the Anchor Impact is probably in a position to where now they're willing to spend, because they're not worried about, hey, if we spend all this money for this coach, we're going to waste it because the next coach is going to come in and clean house. So they're not worried about that anymore. So they're going to continue to spend aggressively. So that's the first thing. If you got the money, use it. Use it. Build your roster. That's what you're there for. All right, find a way to take advantage of the city's willingness to jump on board. Okay? Now, if you know anything about Nashville, you know this. Nashville wants to jump on something that's Nashville's own. UT is not Nashville's own. There's a lot of UT fans here. There's a lot of them that have been in the comments on this show this week even, and I appreciate that, by the way. But Nashville wants to support. I think they could get behind Vanderbilt if they gave them a reason to, right? They got on board with the NFL draft. And I know that's kind of apples and oranges. That's a big event. They got behind the Preds. Like, they wanted Nashville people want to get behind stuff, right? They want to support their local stuff. And Vanderbilt is locals, right in the backyard, right in the heart of downtown. They want to support it. So they got to give them a reason to. They've got to put a product out on the field now. They've got to take advantage of that. You have one more shot with Diego Pavia to really make an impact in the NIL landscape. Because if you can, you're going to have a lot of eyes on you. Your brand is going to be even better. They have to enhance their brand. All right. Their brand is going to be even better. The new stadium is going to be rocking, right? It's not a huge stadium, and that's okay. But the experience has to be great, and you have to get fans in the seats that are willing to support this thing. And you have to get the donations. You have to get the businesses on board. You have to get them, and you have to create an all-in type of approach. And with the product actually on the field, now you've got the pieces. The depth is improving, so you should be able to never have another Georgia State game from last year where it's just complete and utter disaster from the start. You should, against the top 10 Missouri, you win that game this year. Against, when you have Texas on the ropes, you finish them off. You don't get down behind South Carolina big. You find different ways to attack. Your strength and conditioning program has those guys ready to roll. You've got to be out in the community. Your social media presence has got to continue to improve, which it's out there and it's great. It's got to continue on an upward trend. You've got to give people a reason to think Vandy is cool. And Vandy playing in a bowl game, they had a lot of opportunity to market that. They had a lot of opportunity to get eyes on Vandy football. Diego Pavia doing all his media hits and the confidence that he brings to the program, like that, all that stuff works. The story with him and Eli Stowers being best friends, it just works. It just has to be one of those environments that, hey, I want to go to Vandy and I want to uphold what Diego Pavia started. Diego Pavia has a chance to be a legend for laying the foundation to the brand new Vandy. Now, this is an NFL example, so it may not be completely apples to apples, but the Detroit Lions went from one of the most consistently terrible franchises in the NFL to now being in the upper echelon within the last 3 years. Within the last 3 years, Dan Campbell came in, and he was the fuse. He was the catalyst that started that whole resurgence for the Detroit Lions. And it was his actions, it was his willingness, it was his toughness, his grit, his belief in his guys that got everybody on board with the Detroit Lions. And when that happened, they started winning games. And when you win games, you have a starving fan base that was just itching, dying to come out and support them. And what do? They support. And the Lions are one of the best franchises recently in the NFL. They have a great coach. They have a great system, great GM, great owner. You know, the fans have been phenomenal for them. I think Vandy has a potential to be very, very similar in a college football type of way, right? They have a chance to really capture Nashville here with Diego Pavia. They have a chance to really make those stands black and gold. If they can do that, if they can create Vandy as a destination place for home fans, because it's not typically been that way, then you can start getting some bigger names, because people want to play in the SEC. They just don't necessarily want to play for Vandy. And I think if they continue on this upward trend, that could very well change. They're starting to get bigger recruits, like Carson Lawrence is somebody that Vandy doesn't normally get in high school recruiting. Jack Elliott, I think, has a chance to kind of come in and really develop behind Diego Pavia and in this quarterback room. There's a lot of different things that they can do. So, and then all this goes into enhancing your brand and doing that through multiple streams, being a big-time social media presence. In other words, make it cool to play at Vandy. Diego Pavia is doing a great job of that, and I think the team is feeding off of that energy. But they got to make it cool to play there. They got to make it to where, hey, I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to live in Nashville. And they got to use that. And Vandy has to use Nashville. Like, as much as Nashville is ready to support them, Vandy needs to be ready for them to support. They need to embrace the Nashville culture. They need to embed that into all their social media streams. And they are. They just need to continue to do that and continue to improve that as they go. They need to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They just need to continue to grow. I think this overhaul with everything that they're doing has been great. We're just still in the middle of it, right? You're not at the end result to where now you're getting big transfers and big recruits yet. But it's right there on the cusp. Now you just got to finish it off and have the results on the field. Hell, beat Alabama again and see what happens. Beat Texas and see what happens. Find a way to beat Tennessee on the road in Knoxville. You have a chance, man. They're reeling at the quarterback position right now. They're trying to find somebody. Is McIntyre the guy? I don't know. I mean, he's certainly talented enough to be, but I don't know how they feel about him. But they're looking for answers right now at quarterback, and so Vandy can take advantage of that. They go to Knoxville and get a win. That's huge for this market. That's huge if recruits can see hey, I go here, they play a great brand of football, and they're going to help me with my NIL. They're going to help me with my own personal brand. Athletes need to feel like Vandy's going to enhance their brand, and that's the ticket, right? They need to show that they're going to enhance their brand by the athletes enhancing Vandy's brand. It's kind of a two-way street. If they can enhance the presence of one another mutually, then in a mutually beneficial way, and you're winning games and you're more competitive, like you're going to attract bigger talent. You're going to. If you continue on this trend, you're going to attract bigger people. People want to go to a place that is starting to win, a culture that is very dynamic and family-like. People want to feel comfortable. People want to feel like they matter. People want to feel like they can go to a place that's building their brand. Why not go to one of the fastest growing cities in the United States? Why not take advantage of being in the heart of downtown Nashville and all the things that come with living in Nashville? Nashville is an up and coming market. It's about time they compete. They can use that to their advantage. They can't use blue blood status. They can't use a tradition of winning. They can't, they don't have some of the things that Ohio State has, that Georgia has, that Alabama has, that Texas has. They don't have all that. They have to use everything they possibly can. And I don't know if they ever will be able to compete with teams like Texas and NIL, because Texas has unlimited money. But they can be competitive and get a good enough coaching staff to develop that talent and be good to go. So they have a lot of potential is the point. And they have a chance to do, if they continue with aggressive spending, if they find a way and through their performance on the field, through the experience in the stadium, and businesses understanding that Vanderbilt does care about, what their image is, what their brand is, and they focus on improving that, I think they have a chance to really strike while the iron's hot and really tap into that well of money that is sitting somewhere waiting. It's like a dormant volcano, and once it erupts, Vandy could be an NIL giant. They really could be. There's a lot of wealth here at Vanderbilt, and that's something that they can tap into. But speaking of portal, there's a lot of guys out there. What does Vandy need? What do they need to spend money on? Who do they need to go spend money on? What positions? How are they going to cover for Demarion Thomas? How are they going to, there's an offensive lineman out there that I really like. Is he in play? He's a tackle. He fits right in to what we're doing. Is running back a key? I don't know. We'll talk about all that next. Hey, but first, are you scaling your business? And it requires expertise at the right time. Yeah, so if you're scaling it, it requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives you businesses flexibility by connecting with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So if you're finding the right talent, if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can find and connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. The hiring is fast and easy, so you post a job, it's free and it's simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from, that's what you get with Upwork. Cost-effective growth means that instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business or your business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All righty, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, and also right here on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And I always thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you need a second listen, make sure you check out Locked On SEC. Make sure you check out Locked On, any of the Locked On NFL channels if you want draft coverage. If you're a team, if you're a fan of the Falcons or the Titans, or if you live somewhere else and let's say you're a Steelers fan or whatever, they're doing all kind of draft coverage. The draft is right around the corner, so make sure you check that out as well. But portal speculation, right? Who doesn't love some good portal rumors or just some good hey, I'm going to throw a couple names out, and you tell me if you think it'd be a good idea. So one of those names is Joe Cotton. Now, I should note that Cameron Johnson, tight end, is entering the transfer portal. So he's kind of a blocking tight end, inline tight end. So he is leaving and going into the portal. I thought he had a pretty good spring, but maybe he's just want more playing time. He feels like he's probably feels like he's buried, and probably a pretty good move. But Joe Cotton, name I want to throw out there. He emerged as one of the most popular names. He's coming from South Dakota, and guess who's also came from South Dakota? Two guys in Vanderbilt's football office right now. Coach Jeff Nady is the assistant offensive line coach, and his teammate, Bryce Henderson. Does that mean Joe Cotton is really eyeing Vanderbilt? Well, his list is very long, and I sent out a post on X saying that I think that he'd be a good choice for Vanderbilt. He has Wisconsin, West Virginia, Missouri, USC, South Carolina, Penn State, Ole Miss, Iowa, Kansas, Florida, Michigan. There's a lot of good traditional offensive line powerhouse schools. Some of those, what do you call it? What is it called? The breadbasket of America. I think it's what that's called, that corridor of the dead middle of the country. But you've got some great schools in there, and I would love to have Joe Cotton. Just imagine if you had two South Dakota guys as the ends of your as both your tackles, your strong tackle and your quick tackle. There's some possibilities there. If he comes in, he's definitely going to be a starter. He's definitely good enough for that. But I would love for them to develop some depth there at offensive tackle. I would love to be able to say, hey, Joe Cotton is coming to Vanderbilt and he's going to do blank, and Vanderbilt's offensive line is going to do blank as a result. I would love to be able to do an episode on that. So Joe Cotton, I don't know if you're listening to this, Coach Nady, I don't know if you're listening to this. Go get him. Go get Joe Cotton. Go get him. All right. I think that'd be a tremendous addition. The New Mexico State running back. I don't know where they stand on running backs. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but there's another chance at having a Vandy State Aggiedor being able to jump in, right? It's Monte Watkins, and let's say that I don't know if the coaching staff was originally looking at him, but there's a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him. Name is Diego Pavia. Anyway, he's retweeting his highlights, and he's saying speed with 2 red exclamation points. That leads me to believe that Diego Pavia wants him. Jerry Kill, Tim Beck will go to bat for him. Also, the running backs coach will go to bat for him. I think they all came from New Mexico State. They're all Vandy State Aggiedors. Trent Hudson is another one that can vouch for this guy. McKaylin Young probably would like to have Watkins in the backfield with him to create kind of some of that depth that they so need at that position, especially with their identity the way it is. So I feel like that would be a slam dunk. There's a couple options out there for discussion. I'm not going to go a whole diatribe of different portal targets, but if you need speed, if you need home run threat, Watkins is your guy. And what better person to block for him than Joe Cotton? And either that, or you get Joe Cotton and you can run left, or Bryce Henderson's going to tell you to run right because he will devastate you as a defensive lineman. When he was cleared and ready to roll and fully go in practice, he was crushing people. And I look forward to that. I'm really excited. I know I know I've said some things with this offensive line. I know I've been kind of all over the place on it, but this position has been kind of all over the place as far as how they're being built. Like, I really, really think this staff did a great job of building this offensive line, or rebuilding, because they lost a lot of guys from last year, a group that was already kind of inconsistent. So a lot of that was due to injury, but like it was just kind of up and down. And when you get a lot of transfers, sometimes that happens. But you get a lot of transfers plus a new system, and people were just unsure. That happens. So anyway, but we're going to switch gears to baseball. Braden Holcomb is bringing a lot of ump to the lineup, or he is supposed to. Is he going to continue this form that he showed last night after an intensive hitting program? Well, we'll see. We'll talk about the implications of that next. All right. The NBA playoffs, man, they're here. They're almost here. They're here. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And I love how FanDuel makes getting bets in and betting in general so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team, which my favorite team I don't think is in the playoffs anyway, or diving into player props, which is what I really like. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, wrapping up the show here, Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're switching gears to baseball, right? We talked NIL. We talked transfer portal. We talked all of that. Vandy wouldn't be in this position without their transfers. And they're a team that's kind of trending back in the right direction a little bit. I say a little bit because I think it took getting shelled the first two games in Oklahoma for them to kind of unlock this new attitude that they hopefully will have this weekend. This new salty, just chip on the shoulder type attitude that I think they need to play with. It's an edge that I think they need, right? It's an edge that if they play with this edge, I think they'll end up winning a lot more than they lose. And I think the bats will kind of wake up. I think maybe they were thinking a little too much at the plate and it was kind of paralyzing them a little bit, but I don't know. But one guy that I thought was going to come into the season as a bona fide power guy is Braden Holcomb. And for the most part, he hasn't really done that yet. He's had some games. He's had some things go right. But he just hasn't taken off like I thought he would. And, with baseball, I think you play enough games and you have enough opportunities to where you can kind of fix that a little bit. You can kind of take that and go, okay, I need to improve. Here's what's going to happen. And so in doing so, I think Tim Corbin was able to pull him to the side, when he was in his massive slump. He was able to pull him to the side and go, okay, we need to fix something. And we need to do, they went into some intensive hitting program, probably found some mechanical errors, probably just allowed him to take a step back and just get out of his own head. And then I think getting pissed off about that and about Oklahoma beating the crap out of you and all the stuff that happened, I think this team is starting to take out a lot of that frustration. And the fact that they needed to walk off against Lipscomb, that also might add fuel to the fire. And I'm not sure what needs to happen. But if they go in here with this, without this chip on their shoulder, I just don't like this. I think this team with a chip on the shoulder is much, much better. And Braden Holcomb, is it going to work? Well, it remains to be seen. He homered yesterday in the against Lipscomb. So he is he seems to be on the right track. We'll see this weekend, but maybe his approach just needs to be kind of that grip and rip it. Just go up there, get your pitch, and just roll. Right? Read the scouting report, get an idea of how this pitcher is going to attack you. Sit on what you need to sit on, and drive it, and preferably drive it out of the park, hopefully with runners on base. Hopefully the other guys have done their jobs and getting on base, things like that. But I think Colin Barzy is also somebody that can turn into a power guy. He walked it off last night. RJ Austin is a guy that's not necessarily power, but he is a guy that's going to drive the ball into a gap. Vastine is the same way. He sprinkles a little power in there, but he can drive the ball and get on base and get around the bases. They just need to do that more frequently, and they just need to be like, listen, we're pissed off at the world. Like I've said every time I talk about Vandy baseball since this past Sunday, if they need some Michael Jordan like fake juice kind of thing, if I need to just talk a bunch of trash about you, I will, if it gets you motivated and if it gets you winning games. Right? Secretly, I don't really believe it. But they need to play with that chip on the shoulder, because when they don't, they suck. Because I think they're thinking too much. They're trying too hard. I think they're trying to find the perfect pitch to hit, when instead, just drive the freaking baseball somewhere and just play baseball at basic level. Just freaking drive it and go, man. And I think sometimes Tim Corbin does probably get a little too analytical. That can happen in the sport of baseball. It's an analytically driven sport. So I don't know. Anyway, if Braden Holcomb starts hitting for power more consistently, then this little experiment work. It remains to be seen, but I like the idea that they're trying to do something about it and they're not just sitting on their hands, which I didn't doubt Tim Corbin was just going to sit on his hands anyway, but it is good to see the action and to see a direct result of that action and having him homer, which is what you're looking for more of. Now you just need to continue to get more of those homers. But until next time, we'll see you back here on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Peace.